And the city of Philly showing its love on Valentine's Day. General Manager Howie Roseman, by the way, I don't know if you heard, he got hit in the head by a flying beer can, and then he said, "I bleed for this city." Roseman, of course, is the architect of a team that's gone to 3 Super Bowls and won 2, largely considered the best roster in football this season. But they have a lot more work to do. So here's a look at their offseason. Philly currently has $10.5 million in cap space. That ranks 22nd in the NFL. They have some big free agents, guys who are huge contributors like Josh Sweat, Zach Braun, Milton Williams, Mekhi Becton. And will General Manager Howie Roseman make another major move to help these reigning Super Bowl champs on the road towards defending their title? So let's start with you, Bill. Which free agents should they look to prioritize re-signing? A bunch of those guys contributed to the Super Bowl win.
Yeah, you'd love to bring everybody back, but the priority needs to be Zach Bond, who is coming off of one of the best seasons we have seen in recent memory by any linebacker in football. The numbers here are spectacular. He made more than 15% of tackles in Eagles games last year, highest rate of anybody in football, led the NFL in stuffs, tackles for no gain or a loss that created negative expected points for the offense. He was the best coverage linebacker in football per the NFL's Next Gen stats. And then you get to the postseason. Oh gosh, I mean, 3 turnovers forced, 2 fumble recoveries. I mean, this guy was all over the place for the Eagles. Those Vic Fangio defenses, they usually excel when they're strong up the middle, strong at linebacker, strong at safety. Not a place the Eagles have spent typically at linebacker, but this time, Zach Bond, the way he played a year ago, has to be a priority to bring back.
I'm not so sure about that. And the reason I say I'm not so sure is this. Zach Bond had an outstanding year. Everything you said statistically is correct. But I lean more towards Vic Fangio and what he was able to do with Zach Bond, able to do with the pieces that he has. Even if Zach Bond goes and gets a huge big-time free agent contract, I think there are other pieces, either other free agents or guys like Nakobe Dean, that can come in and step into that Vic Fangio defense. I know because I played for Vic 4 years. I understand that defense and what he asks. Now, what I think is more important than anything for Philadelphia to do is to go and re-sign Mekhi Becton. Now, that's different. Mekhi Becton, right guard, started every game this season, 6'7", 363 pounds. And oh, by the way, when Saquon Barkley ran behind Mekhi Becton, he averaged 7.1 yards per rush. That is outstanding. This Philadelphia Eagles offense was the #1 offense when it came to rush attempts, meaning that they wanted to run the ball, even if it wasn't successful, they wanted to run it more than anyone else. So the best way to continue that success is to keep the offensive line intact, get Mekhi Becton paid, and then all of a sudden Saquon can have another career year.
Yeah, you know, the interesting thing about both of the players that you guys mentioned is they were both in the right coaching situation, right? So that change of venue and then coming to the Eagles really helped both of them take a turn for the positive in their career. All right, so in part because of all those great things that are happening, Kellen Moore is off to the Saints. So what are the Eagles doing at OC?
Yeah, the parade's over. They got to fill a job now. So I'm told that they're going to probably line up interviews midweek, Tuesday or Wednesday. They're going to start getting that in order. So watch for pass game coordinator Kevin Patullo. He's considered a strong candidate. Some people around the league believe that he will eventually be the favorite for this job because he's been a right-hand man to Nick Sirianni. He's worn a lot of different hats inside that building over the last 4 years. So they certainly could reward him with the play calling job, but they do have to interview several people, including 2 minorities, to satisfy the Rooney Rule. They're going to look for the best candidates there to try to make this thing interesting. Philly needs to hit a home run here because they could lose a little bit of a brain drain. Not only Kellen Moore, but Doug Nussmeier, the quarterback coach, could go with Kellen Moore and be his OC.
Exactly.
Potential.
We've been hearing talk about that. Right. He's going to call up some of his old buddies and see if they want to move to warmer weather, I guess. All right. Let's talk about Aaron Rodgers now. He has not officially announced his plans for next season, but during his meetings with the Jets, which preceded his departure from the team, he reportedly told them he does intend to play in 2025. Now, while he wasn't bad working his way back from that Achilles injury last season, the Jets did finish 5-12, and we know that Rodgers is going to turn 42 in December. Now, you have pointed out earlier, in fact, yesterday on SportsCenter, this is the first time in his career that Aaron Rodgers has been a free agent. So who do you think might be calling.
Yeah, Hannah, this one's fascinating because talking to people around the league, they do not see a perfect natural fit for Aaron Rodgers right now. Doesn't mean he can't get a good job. He's a bridge quarterback at this stage, 41 years old. There aren't 3 or 4 teams where you say it's perfect. I will start with the Cleveland Browns because I do go back to what sources in the building have told me that any veteran starter with experience is going to get evaluated. So everybody from Rodgers to Kirk Cousins, probably Daniel Jones and the like, they will get looked at, and he could be a fit in that offense. You look at the Las Vegas Raiders, they could double dip with a draft pick and a free agent, although there are questions about whether he would fit Pete Carroll's culture. They're trying to start something new there. New York Giants are going to be coming the market as well, so maybe he could stay in New Jersey, go from the Jets to the Giants.
Oh, my goodness, that's kind of crazy to think about, but maybe it makes a little more sense than it first appears. Sam, what do you think is the best destination for Rodgers, if he decides to play, by the way?
I think if he decides to play, and if I'm Aaron Rodgers, I think I would prefer to go to Las Vegas if I'm Aaron Rodgers. The reason why is that you have a system and a structure that wants to and is built to try and win, and to win pretty immediately. What do I mean by that? Tom Brady, all he wants to do is win. He did it as a player. Now all of a sudden you brought in a head coach in Pete Carroll, who's won Super Bowls before. You all of a sudden have a high draft pick, and maybe they'll use it as a quarterback. I get that. But you have guys like Michael Mayer. You have guys like Brock Bowers at the tight end position. Maybe you bring in a receiver. And yes, you might be a bridge quarterback, but if I'm Aaron Rodgers, I think that might be a better option and opportunity for me to go to Las Vegas rather than a team like, let's say, a Tennessee or a Cleveland, where you may not get as much of an opportunity to win.
H&R Block makes filing your taxes really convenient. File in person at your local office, virtually from the comfort of your home.
Yeah, I wonder, this sounds a little weird, so hear me out for a second. What about the New York Giants, the team Jerry mentioned a moment ago? I know obviously not close to winning necessarily, but that defense played very well the first half of last season, especially with a pass rush. And I think the 2 things for Aaron Rodgers you want to see a left tackle, and they have that in Andrew Thomas, a very good player, and you want to see an offensive coordinator, a play caller who has success building offenses around other people in years past. You saw it, Brian Dable got Josh Allen going in Buffalo, took him to the next level. Daniel Jones, almost a victim of Brian Dable's success what he did the first year in New York. Certainly you want to have an offense that plays to Aaron Rodgers' strengths. He's going to protect the football. He's going to make a few plays out of structure, not as much as he's done in years past, but I think an offense with a coordinator who has experience with different kinds of quarterbacks, building that kind of offense, I didn't think it's crazy to think Aaron Rodgers could stay in New York and maybe stick it to the Jets, who decided to let him leave after the season.
You know, it wouldn't be that unusual for him to do something like that. But I think it's interesting when you talk about a coordinator, because he handpicked his coordinator with the Jets in Nathaniel Hackett. So when you talk about a guy who's used to having a lot of power, right, and a lot of say as they brought in players, they made a lot of decisions the Jets did for Rodgers. I mean, is there a feeling around the league that he could fold himself into somebody else's system seamlessly?
He's probably going to have to. This is not a situation where he's a savior anymore. That's what he was with the New York Jets, or what he was supposed to be 2 years ago. Now he's a 1 to 2 year bridge quarterback. It's a different situation. 41 years old, had an Achilles tear, other injuries. He's a unique personality. He's going to have to ingratiate himself into a new locker room. It's important to remember, though, he could still keep some normalcy with Devontae Adams if they can find a home together somewhere, because Adams likely to be cut from the Jets as well. He'd like to be on the West Coast. Will a quarterback job somewhere out there open? Probably not right now, but they can both at least try to work together.
Little package deal, right? Bringing the show to another town. You could certainly understand it, not wanting to end your career on a 5-win season the way it was with the Jets. All right, another big name that could be on the move this offseason. Myles Garrett requesting a trade from the Browns. So, Bill, the Browns said they're not trading Garrett. Andrew Berry said at the Senior Bowl he wouldn't even take 2 first-round picks for him. But who do you think should be calling anyway?
Well, I think Andrew Berry may take 2 first-round picks if that's an offer, but I believe the team that makes the most sense is the Washington Commanders, where you have all these different things you might want from a Myles Garrett situation. This is the perfect fit for so many reasons. You start with Jaden Daniels, not just a destination quarterback at this point who people are going to want to play with, but a guy who's going to be making rookie salary money, about $10 million a year for the next 3 seasons. Those are the 3 years Myles Garrett is going to have significant guaranteed money when he signs a new extension. That's a perfect fit there. A lot of money to work with. You have a team that has a need at edge rusher. Certainly. With Dante Fowler becoming a free agent after this season, deep on the interior, great defensive tackle rotation, but some questions about the edge. Bringing in an edge rusher could make a significant difference for Dan Quinn. Now you're having offensive line slide their protection one way. You have the ability to dictate what the offense is going to do. You saw that with Micah Parsons. All of what the Dallas Cowboys did was built off of that defensive game plan around Micah Parsons. Have a Myles Garrett, now suddenly everything is easier for everyone else on defense. And from Myles Garrett's perspective, this is a team that made it to the NFC Championship game ahead of schedule last year. So they have a real shot at competing if they can just add one more superstar on the defensive side of the football.
Bill, I will point out a few facts about the world champion Philadelphia Eagles. We know that there's a good chance they could lose one of their top pass rushers, Josh Sweat, could lose one of their top interior rushers, Milton Williams. Howie Roseman, one of the most, if not the most aggressive GMs in the entire league that checks on all possibilities. Andrew Berry, the Browns GM, is from the Eagles front office. He was there until 2019.
Ooh, okay.
And then there's no way that the Eagles want the Washington Commanders, Bill, to your point, to get Myles Garrett in their division to have to play them twice a year. So would they try to poach him to make sure Washington doesn't do that? We'll see. But that would be there's a lot that adds up here when you put it on paper.
It's connecting the dots season right now, Bill, right?
No doubt. I would say some people around the league would not be surprised
absolutely.
at the possibility that the Eagles at least look into this.
Interesting. Bill, what do you think?
Makes total sense. Howie Roseman has been aggressive in years past when there's been something unique on the market. Remember, last year, this was a guy who never spent money on running backs historically. Saquon Barkley, a prime back, comes out in free agency. Well, Howie Roseman shifts his strategy, gets that generational running back, totally transforms that team. There's been no four-time first-team All-Pro before the age of 30 traded in the last 40 years. This is a rare opportunity for a guy still in his prime, a Hall of Fame player. Howie Roseman is definitely going to have meetings in that building and say, hey, can we make this work?
Yeah, 102.5 sacks before he hit the age of 30. Myles Garrett joining only Reggie White and Jared Allen in that regard.